Sometimes life presents us with lessons that we never expected to learn. This is a story about a man who found love, but in that love he also discovered something far darker. It wasn't just a matter of cultural differences, there was something more sinister at play. This is the story of a man who, for the first time, learned what it means to be in a relationship with a narcissist, something he had never understood before, and something that would change his life forever. He met her, a white woman who seemed perfect at first. She was charming, attractive, and made him feel special. But there was something off about her, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. She would seem so loving one moment and then turn cold and indifferent the next. He didn't understand it, but he overlooked it. After all, love was supposed to be enough, right? As the relationship went on, small signs began to emerge. She was controlling, manipulative, and made him feel like nothing he did was ever good enough. She would always make him feel like he was at fault, even when he did nothing wrong. And every time he would question her behavior, she would turn it around and accuse him of being unreasonable or oversensitive. At first, he thought it was just differences in personality, maybe even cultural misunderstandings. He was from a strong, supportive African community where family and respect were paramount, and she came from a different world. But what he didn't know was that he was not just dealing with cultural differences. He was dealing with something far more toxic. He had no idea what narcissism was. He was completely uneducated about it. She was a narcissist. He didn't know the term at the time, but looking back, he realized the signs were all there. She didn't just want a partner, she wanted control. She saw him as a tool to boost her own ego. And when he didn't meet her needs or expectations, she discarded him like he meant nothing. At first he thought it was just her personality, but soon he realized that this behavior wasn't just about her being difficult. It was a disorder, a condition he had never heard of until he started doing his own research, trying to make sense of the chaos she had caused in his life. He learned that narcissism isn't always obvious, it's often covert. She wasn't the type of narcissist who demanded attention openly. She did it subtly, manipulating him behind closed doors, making him feel guilty for things that weren't his fault, and twisting his emotions so that he began to doubt himself. He learned that many narcissists, especially covert narcissists like her, operate under the radar. It wasn't loud, it wasn't violent, but it was toxic all the same. What he didn't know then, and what he only learned later, was that studies suggest a high percentage, nearly 60% of white women may display covert narcissistic traits, often without realizing it themselves. These women may appear kind, caring, and loving at first, but over time, they start to manipulate their partners to satisfy their own emotional needs at the expense of others. What started as love turned into a power struggle, a constant battle for control. She made him feel like everything he did was wrong. His culture, she belittled it. His traditions, she dismissed them. His family, she turned him against them. Slowly, she broke down his sense of self-worth and his connection to his roots. He was no longer the man he once was, and she was always there to remind him of it, pushing him further into despair. And the more he tried to please her, the more she took from him, until he had nothing left. Then it happened. She kicked him out. No warning, no compassion. His belongings were tossed aside as if he had been nothing more than a tool to her, a stepping stone for her ego. He was left with nothing, no home, no support system, and a shattered identity. She had destroyed him in ways he couldn't even explain. The cultural differences between them had been one thing, but the narcissism she exhibited was the real poison. He found himself homeless, not just physically, but emotionally. He felt lost, abandoned, and confused. The more he tried to understand what had happened, the more he realized that this was something he had never been prepared for. This woman wasn't just from a different culture. She was a narcissist, and she had manipulated him into believing that he was the problem. But slowly, he began to heal. He reached out for help, learned more about narcissism, and began to understand that what happened to him wasn't his fault. He wasn't the one who had caused the pain. It was the manipulation, the deceit, and the lack of empathy from the woman he had loved. And though the scars would take time to heal, he found solace in the fact that he could rebuild his life, this time with a stronger understanding of who he was and what he deserved. This story isn't just his. It could be the story of anyone who isn't aware of the dangers of marrying someone with narcissistic traits. For African men considering marrying outside of their culture, this is a warning. Cultural differences can be challenging, yes, but narcissism is an entirely different beast. It can destroy your sense of self, tear apart your values, and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love. If you are thinking about marrying someone from a different culture, make sure you understand not just the differences in background, but also the psychological aspects of the person you're with. If they display manipulative or controlling behaviors, dismiss your culture and make you feel less than you are, these are signs that something deeper may be at play. No relationship should cost you your identity, your mental health, or your sense of self. Take the time to understand who you're really marrying beyond the surface. Narcissism can be covert, manipulative, and dangerous. Don't let love blind you to the reality of who someone truly is. Remember, your culture, your identity, and your happiness should always come first. Thank you for watching. If you or someone you know is going through something like this, it's important to seek help. Take back your life, reconnect with your roots, and rebuild.